if I'm not where I want to be, I'm going to stay in that studio, not sleep.
Yeah.
I will like give up working out, eating, just like you. I'll forget I have to pee. I'm like, what's pee? You know?
Yeah.
Like you just like.
I haven't drank anything anyway.
I'm like, why is my mouth dry? And then I see myself in the mirror. I'm like, I am unwell, you know? So that doesn't work for me. But but that's what I tend to do. And when I notice myself doing that, that's where I'm like, everything I'm looking at needs to change.
Real business owner.
Whatever your situation is currently is not your forever situation.
That's really what real business owners is, man. Like, we don't care where you come from, where are you going?
Our goal and our job is to reduce the mistakes that you have to make or the money that you have to lose.
You want to be an entrepreneur, you want to be successful, don't give up.
You learn, adjust, and continue to move forward. Welcome back to another episode of Real Business Owners with myself, Trevor Cowley, my right-hand man, Corey. And
just
today,
on your left right now, but
yeah, you're, I guess, my left-hand man and my straight-across gal, Rashelle Stetman. Thanks for cruising by and being on the show.
Yeah,
I think
absolutely.
I'm excited to have you.
Happy to be here.
And just so that everybody knows, she started with art and then moved to tattooing, right? Do you still do both? Is that kind of just whatever?
So two businesses.
Were you like a shithead when you were like little and then like kind of grew into this individual that you are and then found like kind of this hyper self-aware person? I
had to grow up really quick. So my family moved from California to Steamboat Springs, Colorado when I was like 6.
Okay.
My dad did very, very well for himself in business. I think that shifted a lot of the dynamic between him and my mom. And he just became absolutely obsessed with business. I mean, the most brilliant person I know. I'm very, very gifted. And I think that he took the role of such a intense business owner that, you know, my mom was the parent. My dad was the guy that was like, I got to bring home the bacon and became like borderline obsessed, you know? So I had this example of, you know, working hard for what you have. And he came from nothing. I mean, he worked for all of it, but our family kind of fell apart because it was so separated.
Your mom and him were living two different lives pretty much.
Absolutely.
Right.
Yeah.
Like she's at home and he's just so focused.
What was your dad doing?
And so
my dad invented the dial on the knee brace that adjusts your settings.
Oh, no kidding.
So he had started the company ProCare Orthopedics, and patented just tons of orthopedic products. So he was going to, you know, Hong Kong all the time and just absolutely
for like the
crushed
prototypes
it.
and stuff like that.
Yes. And I think he sold to a major like hospital distributor and just did incredibly well for himself. But over the course of like when him and my mom started dating to building the business to then selling the business, selling the buildings in Carlsbad, like, you know, making a ton of money, total lifestyle shifts. I think that their marriage, before even thinking of like, you know, the kids and the family, so much changed. And I think that that's really hard for families to go through.
Yeah.
My mom fell into some serious alcoholism and there were just things that weren't.
Do you think that was like just a form of like kind of numbing or coping?
Oh, absolutely.
With, like,
and
the
I think about how much she's seen change over the years of like, you know, from meeting my dad to like where we're all at now. And it's not the way, if I could choose how my growing up experience would go, it wasn't what you would choose, but it's exactly what I needed to be exactly where I am. So I think that that's what brought me to self-awareness.
Do you mind if I ask, like front row view of that, right? As a child going through, and what was the lesson that you learned from that experience with your dad?
Okay. So I don't know if it's just the female instinct to be nurturing, but I feel like I've been in my masculine energy for so long, like fighting to build a business, scale it, grow it to better opportunities, bigger opportunities. And then, you know, eventually now I'm at like 12 years in custom art. I do custom art for private and commercial clients all over the world. And so it's very much like a hustle of like one after the other and like trying to get bigger deals and bigger contracts and royalty agreements, and you're just kind of always chasing the next big thing, the thing that's gonna, you make it once and then you're getting paid for however long.
On all the prints or whatever.
I'm just, that's like you're kind of in a masculine way, right? And when I'm the only one operating the business, I think that it can become difficult to be in your soft feminine side. So when I'm actually creating, that's kind of where I'm at. And I always kind of envisioned that at some point that would attract like the man, right? That would attract like the right man to me. And then you kind of soften and you kind of don't have to be so
maybe rigid in your ways.
And then it's like, okay, wait, maybe that's when you move into the thinking about being a mother, thinking about getting married and settling down. And right now I'm like so behind all my friends, I'm 32 years old and I feel like I see all my friends married, having kids, having their second kid, their third kid. And you're like, I'm behind. But I spent all this time really like in my purpose doing this to build it. And I just think that the next phase of my life is going to be, and I say is because I'm not negotiating with myself anymore. That's going to be where I soften as like a woman to like kind of be attracting and manifesting those that softness in
allowing
me,
yourself to be open and vulnerable a little bit more rather than rigid business. I think I need to be taken seriously.
Oh God.
Whatever.
I think
so it's
I've
like
lost.
putting on almost a front, like, hey, this is, who I think what we do is we play the part almost of what we think that we need to do in order to get the result. I know early on in business,
for sure,
it was like, we started making a little bit of money. We got a nicer office and it got bigger and, it was the glass conference room. And it's like, we got to have a dress code.
I remember rolling in a shirt
and I'm like,
tie.
when we move into that new office, everybody's going to dress. Why? Because that's what you see on TV, right? Like that's what success is. So you got to look like this if you have this. And so it's like, now I got to step into that part because then maybe like if we take a photo and put it on the website and I'm wearing my short running shorts, ain't nobody, going to take me seriously if I'm showing all thigh.
I remember my first big meeting with a client. I made myself go out and buy a briefcase.
Yeah. You ain't got shit to put in it. Like, you're like, throw a notebook or something. You're like,
and I think about it now. I'm like, what a joke. Like, I
bought a briefcase later. I sold real estate for quite a while and I had nothing to put it in.
I feel the art world has labeled artists as people who don't have their shit together and aren't professional and have this sense of entitlement. I want to break all of those it's frustrating. And so it's my job as a professional to eliminate that as soon as I walk in a room.
Yeah.
I think that it's important to be able to speak well with people, which I don't think is something that a lot of artists are able to really do because, art school was interesting. You got
a lot of quiet people,
little interesting mix of people, and you can see who's going to do well in the business, and you can see who would be probably better represented by a gallery. I didn't decide to go that way in business, but I think that that's because I really do enjoy the feeling of like connecting with your clients, you to them, not having somebody in between, but you're representing exactly what you do, and you can explain from your heart what went into this piece. And I think that plays a big part in the professionalism of it, just being able to not only be the creator, but be the person that comes forward and meets with the clients and speaks with them.
Yeah.
I don't know, I feel like that's a big part of it.
Did somebody kind of nudge you in the direction like, hey, go be independent by yourself, do the business thing and the art, like, because that's a lot to juggle, right? Like you're wearing two different.
No, I failed several times.
Hats. How, like in which way? What would you, in how would you say that you failed in your opinion?
Every time I failed, it led me to where I was like, I'll succeed better here.
It always does.
Yeah.
So, it always does.
Failure is honestly some of the best moments of my life. And that's a lot of the home life stuff too. It's like, and failure is only failure till it turns into like something you've succeeded in.
Yeah.
And so it's just like that stepping stone to how you're actually supposed to get to that like more divinely guided path that you're meant to be on, you know, like might have stepped off the path for a second, but it kind of like levels itself out based on just like figuring out what works. And so failing would be graduating art school and thinking that like I would be doing exclusive representation with a gallery. The gallery went under and they were trying to make it where I couldn't sell with anyone else within, I think it was like within a certain amount of mileage in Denver. There was like contracts, there were all these stipulations.
Yeah.
And, you know, as you're a new artist, selling 100%, like I've been doing this full time for 12 years, you don't have another way to make money. So if they're taking 50% of your sales, they're not selling as well. Shady business, not showing you proof of, you know, what the amounts were. You're asking for statements, and they're acting like it's weird. And so you're just learning a lot of, you have to, it wasn't a failure, it was more like a learning experience to go, okay, I'm going to pivot and do this a little differently. And I learned the more independent I got from anyone else coming near my money or my sales was the way that I felt I had a better gauge on how to move forward. So to me, I feel like the most control that I have is the best I'm able to do what I do. From even the thought process of what do I want to create? What is the vibration in me that wants to produce, you know, a certain style of art, because it's very different. I do landscapes, I do paintings, I do drawings, I do hyper realistic portraits. And then when I started tattooing, it was like, oh my God, if I do it all in art, do I have to tattoo everything too? It's, and I'm colorblind too. So it took me several years.
Add a layer of
it's
complexity.
Well, yeah. So like there's a lot of black and white work. And I feel like, you know, for years I was like, I love this. I'm just going to do this. And you realize how much color sells. Just like that market, people want landscapes. Okay. Landscapes are,
is that your biggest moneymaker? Is landscapes? Like what would you say gravitates?
My biggest moneymaker is the pet portraits.
The pet portraits?
Oh, yeah, and I was just talking to you about that.
Because of the emotional tie.
I think so. And just being so like such a dog lover, but also I really take time to like listen to the stories that my clients have about their pets. Like I ask them questions about their dogs, what they were like, personality things, what things in the way that they look are super unique to focus on through that portrait. I've like prayed with clients on the phone, like, you know, and it'll be like a gift to their wife who it was her dog before they got together, and she's just, you know, so broken up and hurt. So it's like to be part of something like that.
Like
it's
a healing
beyond
experience.
Yeah. And it's like you hear how they're speaking so like wonderfully about their wife. I'm like, you know, it really gets me like so emotional, because I'm like, how beautiful is that? It has nothing to do really with like, and a lot of people I went to school with were not super supportive of me doing custom art, because they're like, you're selling out, you know, you're not doing your own.
I think it's the hardest of all, actually.
I think you're providing something so for this
meaningful,
one person
to other people.
It's the gift. It's like, why would I have this gift and not specifically share it if it's on my heart to do so? Now, when people ask me to draw something very dark and ominous, I'm going to say no. I just feel like that will stay with me and haunt me. I do like drawing skulls, but like, you know, the devil stuff, I'm like, I'm not your gal.
I don't do horns.
I know.
Unless it's on a bowl.
Or like the three-eyed goat. I'm like, you know.
We'll stay away from that.
And it's funny because I look at it from like a skill standpoint. I'm like, I could crush this, you know, like the shading. And
I know, I'm sure in the tattoo world, that's going to be a pretty
and I refuse because, again, like we were talking about this earlier, like tattooing is such a sacred, deep connection between you and your client. You're literally opening someone's skin and putting something on them for the rest of their life. And I believe that needs to be executed in a very sacred, like loving space, you know, and that doesn't involve demonic things to me.
Yeah.
And that will stay with me. I don't need that, you know?
Yeah.
So that's
Energy's
just how
real.
I feel.
Yeah. So
It just is.
do you enjoy the tattooing more, or is there one that you like more than the other?
I love the balance of the
Okay.
two. That's like,
Duality of
it's great to be like, okay, before I left on this tour, I had tattooed like 5 clients maybe in the last like 2 months before.
okay.
But I have this amazing series I'm working on for just an incredible client of mine in Texas. And it's 4 musician portraits, and they're huge. And, you know, they take anywhere from like 100 to 140 hours maybe to do.
Wow.
So I split it up. I'll, you know, work on that for a couple weeks, and then I'll tattoo a
Shift.
couple clients. So it's nice to not get stuck in the same thing. And I think that's how artists get burned out on
Yeah.
what they do. So
Yeah.
it's nice to have,
A change up.
yeah. And then I started painting a lot more last summer when I was like, I like lived out of my car and like nomaded it for like 5
Yeah.
months. And I started painting like everywhere I went. And it really helped me like use color and learn, oh, you know, I may see things differently, but maybe that'll be kind of cool, you know? And
I'm so jealous. Like I can't even like, first that you had the courage to do it, because that like,
To do what?
For
the
those that-
5 months of
well, the art, for those that don't know, that was my major in school. And that's actually what led me to all this website design, and that turned to marketing and all that. But it was always chasing money, right? This thing. But art is the only thing that I've ever done outside of my family that I could wake up at 6 o'clock in the morning, having dreamt about it all night long a piece, and then work till 2 a.m. and be wondering where the time went. And then when I'm like, oh, I gotta go pee. Like that's the only thing I've ever had that sense of like,
time disappeared.
you not just disappeared, but you get so drawn into it
yeah, something happens.
that
I've lost a lot of sleep since I became a professional artist.
yeah. But I never had the courage to do it full time. I just didn't.
You know, but there's something to be said about the monetary part, right?
Yeah, I had to provide for my family. That's what it came to. That's why I swung a hammer.
And it can make you hate it. It really can make you resent the thing that you loved the most. And there's been moments in my career I really did. I was not, I've gone through probably 4 major, like, I don't know if I should do this anymore.
I'm
oh
done.
my
Yeah.
God.
It's such a
You know,
existential
I hit
Why
one
did I go down
right
this
before
path?
this trip.
Yeah.
I said to Eddie,
Yeah.
I was like, I don't know if I want to do this anymore.
Yeah.
And
Who's
it's
Eddie?
just so funny. He was on this podcast actually, and
Eddie Malouf?
No.
Eddie Pinero.
Pinero.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
And we did this collaboration, and I met with him in Scottsdale, and I gave him the actual piece that I had illustrated, and he did audio to it. And it was such a, I was like, why did I not think about this before? Because I see all these motivational speakers that have this like incredible message. And I'm thinking, I'm like giving away my brilliance right now.
Yeah.
But
This is top secret
I'm like,
information.
wait, don't put this on the podcast.
Edit it out.
No,
you
but
know?
I've already started it, so it's fine. But basically, like, how do you illustrate what someone's saying to bring life to their words and not show just, you know, B-roll of something or somebody speaking, like, but bring, like, you see people using that at concerts, like, I think it's like kind of electronic music, but they'll have art that's
in
being
the
made.
back,
Yeah.
yeah.
So I was just
Yeah,
thinking,
like digital
wow, how
art
cool would that
usually,
be
yeah.
if I made a video to something that the message is super powerful. It's empowering. It makes people feel
Yeah, that's cool.
like they're coming alive, you know? And so getting really great macro shots of like, you know, you stippling like as he's saying something about like life being temporary. And so we came up with this like script and then the art piece. And, you know, I got to meet him and give him this art piece in person. And you do see every time that you give art to someone in person, how different it is from what they see on like a video or taking pictures of it to when they're holding that timeless thing in their hands. And it's this moment as an artist that you shift a little bit because you realize that you're more powerful than you think you are.
Yeah.
You just said it very well. There's and it can literally be somebody who puts their heart and their passion to making cupcakes or home or whatever. And when somebody appreciates that work, But there is definitely something to be said when somebody comes in and is looking at something that you created and you're silent and maybe they don't even see you do it, but just to see how they appreciate it and to see them like getting lost in it, it is the coolest feeling in the world.
Yeah.
It is a really, really cool feeling.
So what do you do when this is a theme that I think is going to resonate with people, because I don't care what business you're in, you're going to think about, God, why did I do this? What's the thought process that keeps you coming back to it? Like, because then now there's this tug of war in your brain of like, should I or shouldn't I? What keeps you doing
Coming
the
back.
thing when you're in the valleys?
There's a lot to it. A lot of layers.
Yeah.
I would say I have a addiction to work. So if I'm not where I want to be, I'm going to stay in that studio, not sleep.
Yeah.
I will like give up working out, eating, just like you. I'll forget I have to pee. I'm like, what's pee? You know?
Yeah.
Like you just like,
I haven't drank anything
I'm
anyways.
like, why is my
Yeah.
mouth dry? And
Yeah.
then I see myself in the mirror. I'm like,
Yeah.
Oh.
I am unwell, you know? So that doesn't work for me. But
Yeah.
but that's what I tend to do. And when I notice myself doing that, that's where I'm like, everything I'm looking at needs to change. And that's where I decide I need to go on tour. So typically that's when I go travel.
Well, you're
And
big.
it helps
in-
you with inspiration and all that.
Oh, it helps me
yeah.
just escape the monotony of
Yeah.
like, you know, like this, I've wanted to get this contract for this certain client. It's a ski resort and I want it so bad. And I'm so frustrated that it's just not coming through. Everything's on hold. And I felt like I could not leave until I got this.
Yeah.
I could not leave Texas. I need to be here to be available for these meetings, to make sure that, you know, and so that went on for like 3 months. And I'm like, I have got to leave this room. I'm unwell. Like I need to get out there and remember why it is I love doing this. And every time that I escape that overworked, exhausted workaholic artist vibe that I get, like my friends will literally show up at my house and be like, if you don't leave, like you're getting weird, you know, like I haven't socialized in 2 weeks, you know, I need to probably like see a human being.
Yeah.
Like
Interact.
I'm having like full conversations with my dogs.
Yeah.
Like, so I definitely need to get out of that. And I think it's really hard for me as a business owner that right now I don't have any employees, which is a very unique situation because this time last year I had 3 and it was so helpful. I had an email assistant and it's just all me right now. My assistants, you know, kids are out for the summer, so she's not helping with emails over the summer, and it's just a lot to take on, and I get addicted. But when I get out of that normal state, you're available. The ordinary is the extraordinary all of a sudden, and it's like you're available for the things that you didn't know were coming your way. And so I hit this point a couple weeks ago and I was like losing my mind. And I called my mom. I was like, I'm getting weird. I have to get out of here. My friends are like, you're not socializing. Like, what's wrong with you?
Yeah.
And
You step outside in the sun, you're like,
oh no, full vampire mode.
Yeah.
I'm like hissing at it.
Yeah.
So I was like, all right, I'm going to go on tour. I have plenty of clients that need work. And so I get out, I go, and so many beautiful, unexpected things have happened. I mean, like I was telling you guys earlier, like being able to have those unexpected things come across your path where if you would have stayed actually at work in the thing that seems like it would make the most sense to draw, you know, new clients or big sales or just like big opportunities in your career, it's weird how it happens more when I get out of that. And I think that has to do with energy. That is like because my soul is rested. I feel excited every single day when I wake up, even though I don't know half the time like where I am because I'm constantly moving around. Like I've been at I think like 9 or 10 different places in the last like 2 weeks. And I wake up, I'm like, where am I? You know, who am I working on today?
Yeah, what do I got on my schedule and where am I going later today?
Absolutely. And like the schedule's up here, which is so weird
Yeah.
because at home I have this huge calendar and I was like joking with my mom, like, do I take this and put it like on the roof of the car or what do I do with this? You know, like I don't put things in my phone. I'm like an elderly person on the inside. So
do you feel like you're two different people?
yes, I
when,
do.
When you're there versus when you're out
Yes.
doing,
It's like-
and it's like,
It's like that's the person when I travel is the full artist. It's like I'm in my nurturing, feminine, excited, like free spirit. And it's, I would say 50 to 60% who I am. And then there's like the workaholic, which has got me to where I am. And I'm grateful for that. And the drive and the consistency over the years and the get up at 4 a.m, work out, go in the studio, work 18 hours and do it all over again. And it was like, there was barely enough time to sleep.
Yeah.
And there wasn't much reward for several years. But then, you know, I got my first celebrity commission and that changed a lot for my career, and moved to California and started working for like more like giant like public brands and meeting really inspiring business owners that own these companies that I never really even, I thought it would be foolish to dream that big. You know, it's just, that's something that as a kid it seems tangible because you see other people do it, but to see your work when you like enter Palm Springs along all this glass and then it's in New York on Broadway and you're like, oh, that's my signature. Like, it's just not even
that would be crazy.
It's a crazy, and I haven't even got to see it. People take pictures like, you're on Broadway. And I'm like, oh, damn, you know, like, but it's cool. Like, you never really thought that would happen. And I think I'm so nervous to dream as big as I really want to. Yeah. Because I'm like, it's foolish. And so I like get smaller by being like, oh, that's just ridiculous. And that whole thing of don't expect too much. Yeah. So that you don't get let down. Yeah. So you're protecting yourself. Right. But it's like, you're also somewhat still living in that lack mentality. And I think that diminishes as I'm on the road because you don't know. There is something magic that happens on the road. You know, those who know Where he loves driving. Yeah. Where he loves driving. Just go drive. We had a meetup in North Carolina and they're like, I would rather drive than fly. Oh yeah. Dallas. I did that drive. Mm-hmm. So when you're driving and you're connecting, do you drive sometimes with zero music, zero input, and it's just kind of zoning out? Yes. And that's when it hits you? Or is there like a certain like Fleetwood Mac or something's on and you're just kind of vibing out and just living free spirited and then something hits you? It's always what the energy calls for, you know, what's the vibe? Some days I like just not having any music. When I tell you that I'm like such an old soul. Yeah. The Bluetooth broke in my car like 2 years ago and I never got it fixed. So like just I'll straight drive, radio? Yeah, it'll be like, and I'm like, I'm out. I'm just like going to be in silence now I love the radio. I love the silence. Yeah, I think it's so nice. And, you know, I tattooed my client for like 9 hours. The third day was like 9 hours. And after that, he's got music on. He's trying to talk to me. And I'm like fully like cannot. Too much input. I'm like, I'm hearing this person like sing on the song. And then he's talking and I'm like overstimulated. And I'm like, I don't know if maybe that's just not like one focus at a time is really like how I best. Oh, yeah. So if I'm really deep in thought, music sometimes kind of conflicts with what's going on. Yeah, the road definitely it's a medicine. And I usually will go in with a specific, like we've talked about that as I'm like, okay, this is the problem that I'm going to tackle. Mm-hmm. And, you know, there'll be a lot of like meditation or prayer before it. And then I'll go out with the intent of like, I need your help to solve this. Yeah. And it always comes on the road. Well, I mean, what that basically tells me is that you're creating space for your, like, if you're in your studio, you're so focused on what this you're routine doing, and all that. You're so focused on what you're doing that you're not creating a space to where there's like inputs, like you said prior. There's receiving and then there's producing. Yeah, you're getting into a flow state and allowing something to come through you versus come to you. Well, it's like that makes sense. People talk about going up on the mountain being silent. Yeah. 2.5 years ago, I was diagnosed with colon cancer and had a bunch of like, there was a lot of stuff I had to figure out. And do you remember this? When I took it was, in fact, it's one of our mastermind. Is that I had a road trip. So I had surgery. It was December 7th, but our first meetup
I think was March.
Yeah.
And surgery was successful, but chemotherapy failed. I wasn't a candidate. And so the doctor basically just said, I'm like, okay, so where do we go from here? He's like, you pray. Like, that's it. You're stage 3B. It's spread through your body and there's nothing we can do. So that's when I'm like, okay, I got to take this drive to California. We were all going to kind of carpool together. And I finally just said, hey, I need this for alone. And so several days leading up to it, I just like cleared everything out and just went into like this meditation. It was like, I need the answer and I'm not going to turn on the radio. I'm going to keep my phone on silent. And the funny thing is I'd only made it past the gorge when I had like very clear, so which for people not here, it's only like half hour on like a, 6 or 8 hour drive. And so immediately end up having the answer, the path, and it's all worked out beautifully. But like, I think what you're saying is when you make space for it and there's no distraction in that spot, that I just got the reassurance everything's going to be fine. Just keep doing what you're doing. And it's just.
Well, I mean, the root of the question and the answer is, if you feel that burned out where you're questioning everything that you're doing and wanting to walk away from it, that's not a sign that what you're doing is wrong. That's more of like a sign that's like, okay, go create space for yourself.
Yeah.
Switch something up really quick, because maybe it's just what you're doing that's so repetitive over and over that's making you want to quit.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Like,
Well, if you do the same thing over and over and over and you keep coming to the same place of like, oh, I want to quit, this sucks. You know?
Well, even as an artist,
that you got to
as an artist, when you're up close to canvas, and you're just like,
and then you step away. Absolutely.
You step back, and you're like, oh, that's what it is. Or even if you sleep on it and you come back a day, you're like, I'm not going to touch this for a day or two. You get this brand new, fresh
I've ruined
perspective.
so many pieces not walking away.
Yeah, but
Just
that's
being
like
stubborn.
that's a really good analogy in business and in life. Sometimes, like you're at a place with a partner or the struggle or whatever, it is best sometimes that you just take a break and you walk away from that. To get the perspective that's like, okay, cool.
There's got to be some type of changing variable. Absolutely. Because I mean, over the years, I think that you inevitably will come to those just trials and tribulations in business. But it is interesting that I see a pattern in the timeline. It'll be, 2-3 months, pretty good, business is consistent. And then I hit like a low. And I think it's because I'm overworked and I never allowed myself in those 3 months, I noticed, to get out. And once I started traveling and I started fly fishing and camping and doing these like solo crazy trips, like I lived in my car for like 20 days with my dog years ago when I was in San Diego. And I remember going, I'm going to get kicked out of a lot of parking lots. Weird stuff's going to happen. Let's go. So excited. But it was so different and it felt so vulnerable. And it so broke the pattern of what I had been doing. And I think it saved my career and it saved my mental state, like when you're available for beautiful things that you're not used to,
creating space for that.
You come back with a better way to connect with people through what you produce. It's inevitable because you've opened yourself up to new experience.
I think business owners are so stubborn. They're just like, I can't walk away. I can't do this. I can't. They have this mentality of like, that if they're gone for 3 days, that they're going to come back and the whole thing's burned down and this.
Feels irresponsible.
Yeah, and you're trying to tough it out and grit it out, but I mean, there's been times. Our whole point of having the mastermind is like, if the business relies on you completely, like make sure that you're actually good, because if you're good, then the business will be good. Right. Like if you're shit and your frequency is down here, then it's like, you're probably not going to get the result that you want.
I forget to put myself before the business.
Get you good.
Right. I'm like,
and then the good version of you shows up in your business and does good. Right.
Dude, I just interviewed a new member. This is what I told him. I'm like, bro, 85-90% of business owners, when I talk to them, there's a pattern, super clear to spot it. They're like solopreneur. They're on the journey. They're doing it. They need to hire somebody else, but they're not making enough money to do it. And but there's control issues that if they do, they have them, then are they going to do it as good and all this?
Oh, the control. The letting someone being like, okay. I'm like, wait, actually.
Wait, no, I care.
This is how you do it though.
I mean,
then
some
this, and
people
then
that have
that,
worked
yeah.
for me say I overmanage them. I'm like, okay. And then I'm like watching everything they do.
Yeah.
I'm like, you're typing too slow.
Yes.
It's hard to give any control
I've seen
away.
Trev grow a lot. And in that time since I've been with him is that there was a period when it was like very, I guess micromanaged would be a good word. But what's crazy now is that I'm the one that's like, he's like, bro, you just got to let them do their thing. Like they'll
Wow.
crash
That's
and fail
awesome.
and it's okay.
Well, and here's why. It's for your own mental health. After doing it for 13, 14 years, and as much shit that I've been through, to feel like, oh my God, it's all falling apart, or maybe I should just quit and give up, or this person or that, like I need to manage. Guess what? It all worked out.
But you want to know what's
like nothing burned down, everything's still there. And then I realized the first time that Coulter that runs 60-day credit repair was the first time I stepped back and I said, okay, you're going to be at the helm. And then I would sit there in what was my old office with my old chairs and my old artwork and my old, and so it was so difficult. He would be on a phone call and I'd press mute and I'm like, dude, say this, say it like this. And then I would unmute
This
it.
is me.
And then,
That's what I mean,
and then
micromanaging.
after like 2 or 3 months, he looked at me and said, bro, go the fuck home.
Mm-hmm.
He's like, just because I'm not doing it exactly like you would do it, I promise you, we're going to get the exact same result. He goes, I care about the end result just as much as you do. We're two totally different personalities.
That could be the difference, though, having an employee like that.
And I went
yeah.
later.
Then you can
And then
let
I
it-
walked
yeah.
away and it ended up being better than me running it. Because he
Absolutely, yeah.
added a different perspective and grew it in his own way, because I was so in it and so bought into the way that I was doing it that I wasn't introducing new ideas or new
Totally.
things like that. And
Yeah.
so it's like, after that experience, it's like, how can I get out of my way faster? How can I start
Yeah.
a business and not even be involved?
There's
and
something
put the
super
pieces
fundamental
together,
Yeah.
right?
Uh-huh.
something super fundamental. And this actually came on the drive back. I remember I was going through Missouri because this is something I still struggle with. And so it's just kind of in one of my meditations, right? At that time, when you're going through that, it's a place of, you've got this anxiety, this like they won't do it as well or whatever. It's fear.
Yeah.
You boil it down to the very root element. You're afraid.
Mm-hmm.
And as soon as you're no longer afraid, that's what allows you to be able to step back when you really actually have faith in it.
So everything will be okay.
So yeah, but that's where like, I'm like, I know, but it's really, it's in like looking inward that I realize I'm like, I'm being governed by fear.
I
That's
think it's
why.
also risk assessment, right? Because you know that you run some type of, like for me, fear a little bit on that, but I'm not going to sugarcoat this. There have been people I've hired that didn't represent what I do the best. And so,
Right. But what was the fear of if they'd continue to do that? It would impact your business.
well, I'd fire them and then start over.
Yeah.
And so each time you're like, okay, how do I do this better? How do I do this differently to get a better, more aligned person that represents the company?
But what I've learned in that's my whole point, is that is when I finally started actually having faith in me.
But letting go of that control is, I think, the hardest thing
It is. Yeah.
as a business owner for me. I feel like just being an artist is such a personal thing, and then having somebody like,
Well, there's the
space,
business side of that though.
like
you know
some
what I
days
mean?
I
Yeah.
just want to like punch someone in the face, but it's probably why I don't have anyone working for me right now, because I'm like, also there's right now in hiring people, this level of entitlement I have I have a struggle with. And the people that you're like, this is the perfect person, they don't have the hours available. Like, it's just my business feels like it's very difficult to find the right person to hire. And so I'm trying to find like a unique way to work around that issue and just be more available for like that time to tour and just get out on the road.
Yeah.
And when I can get to my emails, I get to them. My wait list is like 10 years for tattoos.
There's the whole supply and demand. And if there's not more supply of you and you're
Right.
in that much of a demand, then what that means is your value continues to go up and up and up and up. Right. And so like,
I
do
guess
you continue to bump your prices to the point to where you're like kind of nervous about even saying the price?
I do that with my art.
Okay.
Like the custom art, that would be the model that I use.
Yeah.
With tattoos though, it's like if I start working on a client and that client and I have a great relationship, I like tattooing them, the vibe is good, the work's producing well, they take care of their skin, like it's a good working relationship, I'm going to take that client on and be available for them moving forward. I keep them at the same rate. And it goes great. And then once I'm done with that client and that client doesn't want anything else, then I pull the next person from the tattoo wait list. And, you know, if at that point it's a higher price, then it's a higher price. It just kind of depends where I'm at in it. But I'm really comfortable with what I charge right now.
Yeah.
And I have such wonderful clients. And I made a Patreon this last year. So I started doing like kind of like quick like art videos to show you like how to draw from start to finish a nose, how to draw an eye, how to do this and that and all this stuff. And I did a tattoo tier, which is the top tier on Patreon. There's all these different subscriptions that you can buy. And the tattoo tier lets people basically skip the wait list if they've been on it. So some people, I get some real nasty emails like, I've been on the wait list forever. Like, why, you know, and they get really mad. And I'm like, I might not want to take you now, you know, like I have to be in a room with you, man.
Yeah.
Like, so
it's gonna be
it doesn't
awkward
set
now.
I'm like, this doesn't set the
say,
bar.
yeah, I made some availability tomorrow and just fuck their shit up.
Right. Well,
out of the lines and
it's interesting because I made this tattoo tier to help people who were serious, you know, serious people who have an idea. There's something that really like speaks to them as to why they want these pieces. They're the people that will subscribe to this. I can tell. It's like taking a deposit essentially, right? And then every 3 months I do a like live drawing for a free tattoo session up to 4 hours. So that's the new clients that I'm taking. I can only like literally take a new person once every 3 months. So I was like, oh, this is a great way to eliminate the BS because there is a lot of that in this industry. Like, there's a lot of like ill intent, I feel.
What do you mean by that?
Like, you know, when somebody gets a custom art piece made, most of the time I'm not meeting them. So I know they want the art piece. But there's sometimes in tattooing where people have this idea that like sitting with me is going to get them a date or a dinner or I don't know.
So you draw out some of the creepers. Yeah.
So I've had to learn the hard way where like I was in a session with a client and
he's like, I want a tattoo on my high inner thigh, please.
Or like a guy who just, there was a guy that just ripped off his shirt.
Yeah. I'm going to wear a
his
Speedo.
Tattoo was on his leg. And I'm like, why is the shirt coming off? You know? And I just like, it's so different.
Like, are we doing a back piece now?
I'm like, I thought that we were doing
I'll tell you from a male's perspective, that's the weird, like, you
tattooing
didn't
your
even
foot.
think of that. You know what I mean? Like, it's just...
like, so I have...
You're like, hey, that's $2,000 for the piece, and there is no dinner.
No, and it's like, you know, you make it 5 hours in, and they're like, so I saw on your Facebook that it doesn't say you're with somebody. And I'm like, I haven't even thought to put a relationship status on it. I'm so unaware
I'm with my 2
of that.
dogs all the time.
No, totally.
That's it.
Yeah.
It's just it's so weird to have to even answer. And, you know, you're working with the same morals and values that you normally do, but you're also trying to be a little bit more polite, but also direct at the same time.
Yeah, that's a tough thing to juggle.
Yeah.
And you're like hurting this person. You're 5 hours in. And so they're vulnerable. It's just...
And you have to finish it.
Right.
You're physically hurting them, and then you emotionally hurt them when you say,
I don't know.
Not only are my tattoos backed up, but my dinner dates are just, not
like,
available.
One client, like, just like really inappropriate situation. And I had to get a lawyer involved, and it was terrifying. Like, you just have to be so, I mean, I wear that 444 necklace all the time.
And for protection.
Yes, and it's a real thing. I mean, I just don't know how I have to really vet these people. And so the Patreon channel really helps me get to know my community, and they're wonderful, like so supportive.
It's really smart.
And
that
then,
is actually
and
really
then I
smart.
started live streaming, and they joined me on Twitch. And so like we're in full conversation, and I'm maximizing how much content I can get per each piece. So I'm like webcam right here for Twitch, streaming it, live streaming over here with Instagram, and then filming with my Sony cameras for like a lesson or some type of like
Reels
art piece
or whatever,
for the Patreon channel for the subscribers. So like there are these 2 little girls on my Patreon that do every lesson that I put out, and they're incredible artists. And John Stamos is on there, which is like the coolest thing. And he's amazing at drawing.
He's on your Patreon?
Yeah. And he like commented the other day because he's playing with Willie Nelson in like 2 weeks in San Diego. And so he did a drawing after I did this Willie Nelson commission, and I put it on my Patreon, and he like messaged me and was like, oh, it's so crazy. Like I'm actually playing with him soon. Like it was just crazy. I'm like, I love how every day is so different in what I do, you know? Like never in my wildest
magic. That is
dreams
cool.
did I think John
really cool.
Stamos would be on there. And I mean, such an amazing illustrator. He does these pencil drawings that you can tell exactly who it is. And they're like sketchy, like not refined like mine. Mine are like, I get like real OCD with mine, but just so
His are more
talented
loose,
and
like-
yeah, like where you see every single like pencil stroke, and it's just, but it looked exactly like Willie Nelson. Then did this one of Bob Saget that was incredible. Like he's just very talented. But then like the little girls that do every lesson, I'm like, you're better than me, you know? Like, and so you realize you're like, okay, I kind of like making these videos and you know, doing the art lessons and stuff too. And so that kind of is a new thing for me that I didn't do before.
Well, it allows you, I think it allows you like part of the human connection.
Yes.
Right?
I don't feel like I'm totally alone.
Yeah, you're like in this nook by yourself and go, you know, and
it's my excuse with my friends as to like, no, I have seen a human.
Yeah, I talked to somebody on my paid
Dude, I've got a
channel.
question for you.
Yeah.
In this journey, right? Of I mean, it is a business, right? What's something that like just completely surprised you? Like you're like, damn, I never really thought it. Like when you're first starting off, young artist, where you're at now, just something that just completely blew you away that you're like, I didn't really get that, but I understand it now.
You're talking to young Rashelle and saying, hey, this is going to surprise you along the way.
How long I have lived in lack mentality. I thought that it would start to shift, like, you know, you get your first big moments in your career, and then you just kind of like establish, okay, that's where my value's at, and then that's where my skill level's at. But it's like it always kind of stayed like low a little bit. I think I struggle with confidence in, will it ever be bigger or better than this, you know? And I don't want to get let down. So I tell myself like, you know, if it happens, that's great, but don't count on it. And I think that that is something that when people have achieved certain levels of success in the way that I have, like even just like working for a celebrity, that in itself, like I got a commission from Chad Michael Murray, and as a kid, you're obsessed with this dude. You're like, he is so hot, you know?
I don't know who he is.
He's like the guy on One Tree Hill, Freaky Friday. Like, you know, that was like my generation when I'm growing up, that is like the teenage heartthrob, right? And I remember like joking around with his wife about it. I'm like, so crazy, man, you know, like, and his wife is absolutely beautiful. They're the greatest people. And now I know them well. And it's just so bizarre to have moments like that. And people are like from high school are like, wow, like, you know, you're really doing it. But my mindset is like, loser, like I'm a loser, you know, it's like, I don't know where that comes from. And I thought at a certain point after doing this for as long as I've done it, I'd kind of not be there, you know? Like I was so surprised when I got this like sale, like the biggest sale of my career the other day. I was shocked. Whereas I should be more in expecting it.
Yeah, I knew that was going to happen
Like, what
one
is
day.
wrong
I've
with
been
me?
doing it for 12 years. I've been consistent. I show up every day.
Totally. Isn't this what I've been
I put my
working
heart and
towards?
soul into it. Like,
Like, did I think none of these pieces were going to sell. I don't know what that is. And so I think I'm still trying to figure out why I'm surprised by being surprised when I do well at things. It's just a strange thing. And I think, when you don't have people around you in my business, like telling me, like patting me on the back, right? Well, I won't do it. So if I don't
You're your
do
biggest
that,
critic.
oh, I'm horrible to myself. Like, my boss is a bitch.
What's the antidote?
I think being able to go away from that's the whole traveling thing.
Yeah.
Because I appreciate myself and my calmer demeanor when I'm on the road to be available for different things. If I have an existential moment in the car and yesterday I just decided to go off the road. Oh my God. I found the most beautiful waterfall out of nowhere. It was like my intuition was like, go there. There was no signage or anything. And I'm way deep in the mountains, probably 5 miles up there. There's nobody. I'm at a river. There's waterfalls, all these campsites that looked people had camped at, but it's not like campsites. It's way deep in the mountains.
Yeah.
And the fact that I was available enough and present enough in that moment to be able to go, something's back there. I mean, it was bizarre, there was, and not one single car going up. There was no reason. But if you don't make yourself available for that, you kind of lose the appreciation in yourself because you're not living. And so as I'm driving up the road, I'm bawling like a crazy sap, so happy about it. Yeah. And I think that makes me appreciate how far I've come, what I've done. And it makes me be able to see myself, But when you get so stuck in the same thing, nothing's special about you anymore. And I think you have to go rediscover why you're special, So for me, it's getting out of the routine.
When you remove yourself from that hustle or from the grind, now you get to be over here looking back at it just a little bit and be like, oh man, I really love the process.
I think part of the magic, and you've heard me say this a lot, I'm like, I can't believe we get paid to do this. Really, I get paid to hang out with people who I love, admire, respect, in the process of helping serve other people. And I'm still waiting. I'm okay, when's it going to get unplugged? When is this going to stop?
Totally.
And
that's
once
the lack mentality.
But once I finally was I don't care. I like it right now. Mm-hmm. If it stops, it stops.
Well, I think that's my thing
now.
Is
that. I feel like I've won. Fear is the
thing of the future, isn't it? It's
oh yeah.
I fear that I won't have what I have right now. I fear I won't have that at some point. And that
but I'm
can
okay
drive,
with that now.
Yeah.
Really
and when
am
you
fine
let
with
go
it.
of that, I think you welcome in things that you didn't even think were part of your dreams. You didn't even think were going to be part of your reality,
I will tell you, when a doctor looks you in the eye and is telling you you're in the 18% survival rate, for where you're at right now, that will shift things for you, that it brings just this level of appreciation. And I hope for everybody that it doesn't come to that, but I'm telling you, we all walk around with an expiration date on us. We all are. Mm-hmm. You might as well start to enjoy this process of doing it.
Yeah. I have another part of my career that I feel like is very surprising that I did not expect. And I think this is the sellout thing that people I graduated from art school with kind of have some truth with that statement. When you do custom art so much, I went one time 2 years not doing one personal piece for me. And all of a sudden it didn't feel like my voice at all anymore. And I was making the most amount of money I had made. So I felt that there was this validation with the monetary backing.
There's that exchange, yeah.
And I was so proud, and it was so consistent. And I really hit this market with the dog portraits, and it just felt, I was proud of myself as a business owner. I was disgusted with myself as an artist. And I think that there are two people that exist in me, and keeping both happy is a really interesting and responsible. There's a lot of weight on that to balance both of those parts of me. And I think being able to be super self-aware of where you're at keeps the work at its highest level, keeps your mental state at the best. You just really have to be aware of it. So travel really has helped. Those road trips, the silence, sometimes you just turn your car off in the middle of nowhere. It doesn't even matter if you're like in a dirt lot in the middle of nowhere, you know, you're like just, it's
no
so
more
nice.
stimulus, right?
Yeah.
No more input.
Like even hearing the wind, closing your eyes and feeling it on your skin in that moment. When are we ever that available?
Connected.
And just, there's no.
Well, you're disconnected, but then you are connected.
Yeah. Well, the only thing you can really be connected with is you. And sometimes you don't like what you see.
Yeah.
You're like, I hate myself right now.
Yeah.
And when I start to really not be good to myself, I'm like, gotta go. I gotta go do something because this is not good. Like I was working with this awesome like agency that didn't turn out to be awesome. And I took on like 4 people's jobs. And so I stopped working out for like 4 months when the last 8 years I worked out every day for like an hour and a half every morning. And so and it's part of what keeps your momentum. It gives you energy in the morning. It just really was good for me. It was like something I felt like I did for me. And when I took that one thing away, it was like I started to hate myself.
Mm-hmm.
And I was so overworked, but I was so proud of what I was producing. And I did it on my own. And I actually like crushed the projections like way more than they were going to. And what we assumed we would do was insanely low compared to what I did on my own. And so there was this proud moment that I did this on my own. But then I looked at my actual personal life, like myself, which is like the artist Rashelle is like more dialed with like the personal life, like that. Those traits kind of go together, you know, because your art is an extension of where you are. You know, you meet your art where you're at.
Yeah.
And I just think that that's like my telltale sign if I'm starting to not be good to myself. Like, okay, I need to go get some unknown. I need to go get vulnerable. I need to be alone and get weird. I like love being a dirtbag and not showering for like 3 days and being in the middle of nowhere, turning my phone off, like literally screwing kind of my business for a minute because, you know, you're not posting and you're not advertising. You're probably missing really important emails. Like
you're not doing all the things
honestly,
that you
like,
should be.
I know. I'm like, I
you're
gotta go.
doing exactly.
That is the signature of ADD too,
you know?
if I've ever heard. Like, that's it. You just go to this place and then all of a sudden you're just like, I gotta let it all go.
Yeah,
all
seriously.
Has to stand on its own for a little bit and I'll pick up the pieces when I get back. You know?
Yeah.
Well, you said something in there that resonates with me, and I'm sure a lot of people listening is you said you meet your art where you're at. Mm-hmm. A lot of people meet their business also where they're at, right? It's like it's the same type of concept, right? Like somebody's art is their business, yours is actually art, right? And so it's like you are the bottleneck, you are the problem, you know, and once you actually focus on you and you do move your body and make sure that you're good and check in with you every so often, then you get to show up in that area that is business in a way where you're happy and you're whole and you're fulfilled.
Well, and honestly, I will then be present there too.
Yeah.
So much of my business, so much of me in my business is not being present. I will think of one problem, then I'll go to the other. And then it's like a squirrel brain. There's always going to be problems. There's always going to be issues. And so if I can go in and go, okay, I'm going to focus on one thing at a time today in the business, instead of trying to mend, you know, put out 5 fires, I'm going to just try and focus on really putting this one out and then making sure that it doesn't happen again.
Yeah.
So I think I come back to focusing on solutions rather than focusing on the problems once I like have taken that time to kind of help myself, you know. It's like you one bite at a time, you know.
I'm a big believer in that. And that's one reason why I enjoy running. Mm-hmm. It's just literally one step at a time, you know? And so it helps me with that perspective. It's
I
like,
should take that up.
It's like, well, no matter what, like, man, this sucks. It's painful. But guess what? It eventually subsides. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And then eventually you're proud of yourself. Like I showed up and did it anyways, right? Yeah. And so it's like, I think a lot of people are going through life. They're just not feeling proud of themselves. They don't feel accomplished. They haven't done enough quick enough, right? Like we're trying to strive for that next thing, and we're not appreciative of all the things that we have accomplished. And so for me, you know, I was talking to my daughter and I said, you know, I wake up every day and I do something that sucks, because every day that I'm in the shower after I do it, I feel more in control of my life and I feel proud of myself.
Mhm.
And it's very rare that you'll find people that could say genuinely they are proud of themselves because they overcame a weaker version of themselves that didn't want to do it or was
Absolutely.
coming up with excuses or whatever it is. For me, that's my flow state.
You're getting
Right.
in the almost addiction of resiliency. Because a lot of people might assume that you just love running. But if you're actually sitting here saying, this sucks, you
Yeah.
know, this is not, and I mean, Joe Rogan says it, like, it's not like every day you want to do this. Kevin
Yeah.
Hart talks about it, you know,
Yeah.
I don't want to do this,
Yeah.
but I get up and I do it. And when you teach yourself that you can be resilient in a way that you're actually pushing yourself to do it, then things that come at you in life that you didn't expect that are not great, they're more of a negative thing.
Yeah.
You can take that so much better and know how to like find solutions than somebody who doesn't ever actually do things by choice that they don't want to do. I mean, you're changing chemistry in your body.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that is when you train yourself to do that, you are helping your business, you're helping your home life, you're helping your partner, you're just leveling up in every way in your character.
Yeah.
So that when you have problems in marriage, you have problems here and there, it's like you're ready.
It's all temporary.
Yeah, totally.
It's all temporary,
Mhm.
right? Being tired is temporary. And usually that's what holds people back from creating a better version of themselves. They don't want to wake up and go do that thing. Why? Because there's 15 or 20 minutes where they're tired.
Yes.
And if you really think about it, when you're tired in your business, I promise that's temporary.
Mhm.
Guess what? There's going to be a day that I'm 60, 70, 80 years old. And I'm going to look back on my life and say, you know, I was thinking about it today. I'm like putting on I'm like, man, I'm fucking tired. But then I'm like, I have the opportunity to do this. And when I go out and do it, like my level of gratitude and appreciation for my body, for God, for, you know, being able to connect with myself out there just increases immensely. But I have to overcome myself in order to go experience and have that emotion or that feeling. And everything that you want to experience that's positive has to be earned. There's an exchange that has to be made.
Absolutely.
Right? Like you can't feel good about yourself doing nothing.
Mhm.
Right? And so it's
No.
like what's the exchange that you're willing to make to feel good about who you are and being proud of who you're becoming? And it's hard to explain what I experience out there, but
I think almost every consistent business owner, because I mean, you could have owned a business and then you're like, this isn't for me or whatever. But if
Yeah.
you are truly on a path of, I will always be my own boss, I will not work for other people, you have to find a way to train yourself so disciplined. I mean, it's not just the run. It's the waking up and not pressing snooze. It's the having your clothes laid out so it makes it easier. It's the setting yourself up for success every moment that leads up to that thing that you still
Yeah.
don't want to do.
yeah,
You don't realize how many steps there are before you even get to the thing you don't even want to do.
yeah,
Like, I didn't want to get up at 4 a.m. for years. I did not like it. But it felt so good after that I did.
Yeah.
It was like, it's exhausting, it's tiring. And sometimes I would just do all-nighters. So I would roll in straight from like still being in the studio and just change into my gym clothes and just not sleep. And that's what I would give up sleep to be able to do it. And still, like, it's so important to train yourself to be so disciplined because no one else is going to do it for you.
yeah. Well, how many times can you give yourself undeniable proof that you're doing things that other people aren't doing?
Right.
And so for me, getting up and it's dark outside and I'm seeing not a human in sight, that's undeniable proof to my mind that I'm willing to do things that other people aren't willing to do. So when it comes down to it in business and I'm facing something difficult, I'm the type of person that does things that other people aren't willing to do.
Right.
So
Yeah.
it's okay. This is just going to be temporary.
Mhm.
Everything will be okay. And
Mhm.
it'll all work out exactly how it's supposed to. And at the very end, I'm going to feel proud of myself.
My biggest fear in life is that I was ordinary. What a shame.
Yeah.
You have this experience to come in and change and create light and bring something to the world.
Yeah. Be different.
And you chose several moments, I mean, hundreds of thousands of moments throughout your life. You chose the easy thing that gave you an extra 15 minutes to sleep. You chose, I can't be that person, because the more that I change those little things in me and I start to kind of defer to like what makes things easier, or oh, I'm tired, an extra 15 minutes actually is going to make me more tired, you know? And it's like forcing yourself to do the things that you don't want to do is one of the greatest things that I feel like my parents taught me. I think that's really important to tell yourself, I'm going to stick with this. You know, if I tell myself I commit to something, I'm going to commit.
Yeah.
It's like a loyalty agreement with yourself. And if you don't stay committed with you, how are you ever going to stay committed with anything else?
I want to be in full control of my life. And if I can't overcome myself, I might succumb to myself in other situations that probably won't have the desired outcome that I want. If simply honoring your word and becoming consistent in doing that means that you'll have a life that's different than everybody else, give me whatever suffering comes along with that, because I would rather suffer through those micro moments than suffer looking back on life and saying, holy shit, a lot passed me by and I didn't live up to my full potential. When you're talking about addicted to resiliency, in reality, I feel like that we have so much untapped potential. And it's like, God would not give us potential if he didn't want us to extract it. And so I'm like, let me take this thing for a ride and see what it really can do. Like,
absolutely.
I want to pull all the levers and go to the extremes. And some people, look, once you start seeing the results of the consistency, then obsession starts coming in and your brain's like, what else can I do? You know, I'm on a run doing 10 miles every day. And then I'm like, I wonder what the world record is for a marathon every single day, you know? And so like I pulled over, so to speak, on my legs and I Googled it, you know, and a guy did it for an entire year straight, you know, and I was sitting, but doing that at one point to me seemed absolutely crazy. Like there's no possible way that I could do that. And it started with 1 or 2 miles and then worked out to 5 and then 10. Now that I was there, I'm allowing my brain to expand in terms of possibilities and let it think of something even greater.
Yes.
And it's just these little micro steps
to keep pushing.
Expanding yourself so that the possibilities of what you believe you're capable of also has the ability to expand.
Absolutely.
You know? So how do people connect with you if they want to connect with you, if they want to check out your artwork and get on your 11-year waiting list and your Patreon? And
okay, so my Patreon's Rashelle Stetman Art. My website is RashelleStetman.com. And Instagram is Rashelle_Stetman. Rashelle is spelled Rashelle.
Get it right, people.
People think it's always with a C, and it ain't.
We'll put it in the
I don't
bio.
love this, but I'm always like, you know, like the rash that you have on like your skin, and people are like,
rash.
You do not say that. And I'm like, I knew I was going to say that at some point on here.
Yeah.
Just really trying to soak up the awkwardness, but
you're better off just spelling it.
Yeah.
You know, you just make it a little bit less.
Yeah, totally.
Corey, what's your takeaways on this episode? What would you say your key takeaway is from Rashelle?
There's a lot to unpack.
Well, just one.
This for a while. First of all, is living true to who you actually were created to be. And then actually in that is pushing yourself to find the different version of that and growing and be willing to do the uncomfortable, difficult things.
Oh, thank you.
My takeaway was create space for you, become self-aware enough to know when it's time to fill up your cup so that you have the ability to stay consistent for a long enough period of time to see a level of success that has the ability to change your life. And so,
but it does begin with self-awareness. And it is a superpower.
Yeah.
So I got to give you credit on that.
Yeah. Well, we appreciate you coming on. It was awesome to
have
you.
This was great.
You're
this was so great.
And so we hope you guys enjoyed today's episode. Make sure you share the show with somebody that you love and care about, that you feel like can get value from it. Other than that, keep kicking ass, and we'll see you guys next week.